I still remember the smell of that gym long before I ever smelled victory. It was a mix of old sweat soaked deep into cracked mats, the metallic temps of rusted weights, and the quiet, persistent hum of a broken fan in the corner. That place was my entire world long before anyone knew my name. Back then, I wasn't a boxer in most people's eyes. I was just another kid with taped up hands and a pair of borrowed, worn-out gloves. Every single punch I threw was fueled by a deep, gnawing hunger. Not for food, but for a way out of the life I was living. My mornings started before the sun even considered rising. I'd run through the empty, silent streets while the rest of the city slept, my breath misting in the cold air. I'd decount my breaths just to forget the burning pain in my lungs and the ache in my legs. Every step felt like a question, asking me over and over if I was strong enough, if I had what it took to keep going when everything hurt. The gym door always let out a long, slow creak when I pushed it open, like an old man groaning. Inside, posters of champions faded and torn from years on the wall stared down at me. I used to look up at their stoic faces and wonder if they ever felt as small, as invisible, as I did in that moment. Training was anything but glamorous. There were no cameras, no cheering crowds. It was Hustme, the heavy bag, and the unforgiving lessons of the ring. I got hit more times than I could count, far more than I ever landed punches of my own. In the beginning, losses came faster and more frequently than wins. Some nights, I'd drag myself home, my face bruised and my body aching, seriously doubting if this whole dream was just foolish. Was I just kidding myself? Money was a constant struggle. It was always tight, always a worry in the back of my mind. I learned to wrap my hands with reuse tape, washing it and drying it for the next day. I patched my old training shoes with glue and duct tape instead of even thinking about replacing them. But quitting, that was never a real option. Quitting meant staying right where I was, and that was a fate I couldn't accept. It was the one thing that scared me more than any opponent. I remember fights I lost so badly I couldn't look anyone in the eye afterward. The walk from the ring back to the locker room felt like miles. I'd hear the crowd roaring for the other guy, while I just stood there, breathing heavy, my heart pounding with disappointment. Each loss carved out into my mind, deeper and more painful than any physical punch ever could. People weren't shy about sharing their opinions. They told me I wasn't built for greatness. They said I lacked the natural power, the raw talent, the pure luck you needed to make it to the top. But what they couldn't see, what they didn't understand, was the fire inside me. They didn't see how badly I refused to give up. Late at night, when the house was dark and quiet, I'd shadowbox. In my small room, there was no music, no coach shouting instructions, and definitely no crowd. It was just me and my reflection in the mirror. And with every jab, every hook, every slip, that reflection reminded me who I was really fighting for. I was fighting for that kid who started with nothing. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, things began to change. My footwork got sharper, a little quicker. My timing improved. My punches started landing with more precision, and most importantly, the fear that used to paralyze me started to fade. It was still there, and not in my stomach before every fight, but it wasn't in control anymore. I wasn't winning everything, not by a long shot, but I wasn't breaking anymore either. Then came the fight that tested everything I had learned, everything I had endured. I walked into that ring as a massive underdog. The commentators barely even mentioned my name, focusing all their attention on my highly touted opponent. But as the rounds went on, I felt something different growing inside me. A quiet confidence, a raw determination. I took punches that would have dropped the old me, from a year ago. My legs shook from exhaustion, my lungs burned for air, but I stayed standing. And for the first time, deep down, I truly believed that I belonged there, in that ring, under those lights. When the final bell rang, it was a close fight. My hand was raised. It wasn't a title fight. It wasn't for a major belt. But in that moment, it felt like proof. Proof that all those lonely mornings, all the pain, all the sacrifice, it all meant something. After that night, the wins started stacking up, slowly but surely. They were never easy wins, and they were rarely pretty ones. They were gritty, hard-fought, honest battles. Each fight taught me more about myself than boxing ever could. I learned about resilience, about digging deep when you think you have nothing left. The bigger the fights became, the heavier the pressure felt. The crowds grew louder, the expectations got higher, and the cost of making a mistake became enormous. I learned a crucial lesson. Fear never completely disappears. You just learn to look it in the eye, acknowledge it, and then fight right through it. Then, the call came. The championship opportunity. The one shot I had dreamed of since I first wrapped my hands in that dusty old gym. The lights in the arena were brighter than I had ever seen, and the place was packed with thousands of strangers, their voices a deafening roar. As I made my walk to the ring, I thought about every version of myself that had gotten me to this point. The kid with borrowed gloves, the young man nursing his bruises, the fighter who refused to stay down. The opening bell rang, and everything else in the world disappeared. The pain, the noise, the pressure, the doubt none of it mattered anymore. All that existed was the next punch, the next breath, the next round. It was pure focus. I got knocked down hard in the middle rounds. I was lying there on the canvas, staring up at the blinding lights, and for a second, time slowed to a crawl. I could hear the referee's count echoing in the arena, and in that moment, I remembered every single time I had almost quit. Every voice that said I couldn't do it, I got back up. Not because I was physically stronger than my opponent, but because I was stronger than my own past. Every punch I threw after that came from years of struggle, not just from muscle. The final round felt endless. My body was screaming, completely exhausted, but my will was louder than the pain. When that final bell finally rang, I knew I had given every single ounce of myself. There was nothing left. The decision felt like it took forever. Those seconds stretched into lifetimes as the announcer stood in the center of the ring, reading the scorecards. Then, I heard the words that changed my life forever. And the new champion of the world. ... The crowd erupted, a wave of sound crashing down on me. But I just stood there, silent, trying to breathe it all in. I wasn't thinking about the fame or the money. I was thinking about that old gym with the broken fan. I thought about the losses, the doubts, the lonely nights spent shadowboxing in the dark. I realized that the title, this shiny belt, wasn't just a trophy. It was proof. Proof that struggle can become strength, that persistence can overcome any obstacle. I'm a champion now, but the fight never really ends. Every scar on my face and my hands is a reminder of where I started. And every single time I step back into that ring, I carry that kid with the taped up hands and borrowed gloves inside of me. Because champions aren't born in the spotlight. They aren't created overnight. They're built in silence, forehead in pain, and defined by their persistence. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.